Mauro, over to you for the final part.
Okay, thank you, Nhung. We reached the final part of today. So I'll go straight on to invite our panelists, which should be around us. We also have a connection still, so we're still dealing with technology. I think it should be fine. We connect to Australia. Please go ahead. I'll promise you we do a quick one, a good one, and then everybody enjoying the drinks and networking. Please, guys. Our Italian friends here is already complaining about the color of the wine. Okay, is Carl connected? Excellent. So I'll start by, this one will be a bit more on megatrend and design panel. I'll start maybe just asking everybody to introduce themselves so that you know who is in a panel, and then we'll start with a few questions. I ordered the wine for us as well, if you don't mind. It's been a long day for everybody, so we'll get some wine going. Luigi, please.
Hi everybody. My name is Luigi. I'm the CEO of SE Project Asia, which is a subsidiary of SE Project from Milano. And we do architecture design, planning, and in Vietnam we're trying to work for the hospitality, but more for the heritage, so promoting the renovation of old buildings and converting them in other functions.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for hanging out all the way into this time. I think we're scattered everywhere now, but my name is Han. I am the CEO of the Bim Factory. We are one of the first few BIM-enabled companies here in Vietnam. We started in 2014. I founded the company back then when BIM was hardly a buzzword at that time. We've grown quite since, and now we are one of the leading BIM consulting company in Vietnam, and we work on projects all over the world.
Well, good evening. My name's Andrew Frost. I'm the founder and owner of Dark Horse Architecture. Dark Horse is now just turned 5 years old here in Vietnam. We've been focusing on the hospitality sector over that 5 years, had many resorts now completed, and are very excited and was attracted to Vietnam because of its great potential to evolve new and relevant models for hospitality in this market.
Hi everyone, my name is Jean-François Chevance. I am the design director as well as the hospitality design director for Architect Group. We founded Architect Group about 18 years ago. We provide architectural, engineering, and construction and project management. We are now in about 15 different countries, mostly in Asia. We have projects in a lot of different sectors and of course in hospitality. Right now in Vietnam, you can see our name on some projects such as the Mandarin Oriental in Ho Chi Minh City, the Hilton Garden Inn in Ho Chi Minh City as well, the Avani in Vientiane, Laos, and we're also doing a couple of renovations, but we'll come back to that later.
Thank you. Carl, can you hear us and can you connect, please?
Hey, what a great show, Mauro. It's really good to see so many familiar faces. I'm Carl from Indochine. I'm stuck in Brisbane right now. I wish I was up with you all. We're contributing to the engineering design of hotels in Vietnam for 20 plus years. Many of you will know recently we have been acquired by Tokyo Construction. When you get off the train in Shibuya in Tokyo, you'll see many hotels, Tokyo on the top. So I'm sure you're going to see a lot more input from our company to the industry going forward.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you for connecting. I'll start with just a very general question to everybody regarding the business. How was the business this year, and how do you see it next year for your company, but generally for the hospitality business? And maybe Luigi, just in order, take us through your Italian optimism.
Quite optimistic actually. I mean, to be honest, I'm busier now compared last year. So I see positive, and the country is young, still need a lot of things to do. So next year I think we will be busier. So positive.
For us, as far as business is concerned, is actually kind of going more better than expected. Because most of the things we do are outsourcing. We handle a lot of outsourcing from other companies all over the world, especially the U.S. So the U.S. is obviously, being hit hard with the COVID-19. So then they are outsourcing quite a lot to other countries, and Vietnam being one of the countries that is very attracted to them. So surprisingly, May and actually March and April was really the hardest months for us, but then for the most part, it's been going quite well. So we're hoping to keep that trend going.
Well, being here for 5 years, I've seen a fairly big change, and we've grown very rapidly with the market. I think the biggest challenge going forward from this point is a lot of owners are looking very seriously at how they move forward with confidence. A lot of the hospitality market is based around sales and leaseback. Huge challenge for their finances to move forward. And I do think that this is going to be a very challenging time for some of those projects which have just got to a position where they want to go to market to see their projects move forward, and now they're just waiting to see what happens with the market response to that product.
For us at Archetype, we've been impacted, of course, depending on the countries. This is more or less a problem. We've been impacted by cashless clients, impacted by the travel restrictions. But this only lasted for a month or two, and now we can see a clear pickup of the business with different jobs. And I was saying we're doing renovations. I think it's the perfect time for hotels that can afford it to start renovating. We're doing the renovation of the Movenpick Hotel in Hanoi, another hotel in Halong as well, which is rebranding. I think this is a new way to go. You don't know what to do, you don't have clients, and if you have cash, if you can afford it, renovation is a new market right now.
Carl, please, how is he? And you just, maybe you share a news with us on your recent acquisition. I think you have some good news to share with us, Carl.
Yeah, sure. Very similar to others. I've seen a few waves in Vietnam come and go, and I think we're just seeing a repeat of the waves more than anything new. A year ago, we felt the hotel pipeline was past its peak. We were seeing approval and debt issues, holding up projects, a lot of discussion on approvals, a lot of discussions on debt. COVID certainly has made an impact, but perhaps it's pushed the authorities to adjust their policy levers. Approvals seem to have unfrozen. Debt hurdles perhaps have lowered. And we're seeing less discussion on the Vietnam change government. All I can hear you talking about Trump and the US, but a year ago there was more discussion on the Vietnam perspective. We're actually seeing more activity across the board. Also in hospitality, a 70-story hotel in Ho Chi Minh City, for example. I'm thinking maybe activity will be less frothy going forward, but investors, developers, owners looking long-term and seizing the day.
Thank you, Carl. I'd like just to move maybe with the first question here with some of our expertise. We all love hotel, but the reality are they're not easy to put it together. And a lot of developers in Vietnam are first-time developer or first-time hotel developer, and they just don't quite know the process, the right process into. So maybe you guys have a lot of experience into what is the wrong and the right way, and what are the typical mistakes that you see them developer doing that it could be avoided to get much better product. Maybe Jeff, we'll start with you.
Is this where I say all the mistakes I've done?
Sorry?
Is this where I say all the mistakes I have made? Or?
Yes, that's a mistake.
So yeah, there are thousands of possible mistakes in hospitality, but I think you know all about that. It's an oversized restaurant, an undersized back of house, 20 different types of rooms. I think we should focus on the mistakes that are made at the very early stage of development. In general, when we don't have an experienced developer, we are very often faced with someone who wants to go very quickly without taking the time to really analyze the site, analyze the place where the project will be. And I have just two examples about that. The first example is about a middle-sized hotel, big brand, big name, very experienced. And everything was in place, the area program was there, it's been done perfectly since the beginning. The only thing is that they didn't have an idea about the regulation, and the regulation, especially now that we have more enforcement, and this is a pre-COVID situation, they will force the developers to apply the regulation to the letter. And for example, the number of car parks and a very small land means a deep basement, and the impact on that basement on the total operation is negative. And our client now is considering reducing the number of rooms or completely redoing the program. The other example I've got is also, but this time in Hanoi, also a big brand. Everything was in place, the operator was on board, the program was done, everything looked perfect on the paper, the GFA was good, plot ratio was good. The only thing is that they did not even make a sketch before they commissioned their designers, and just after a few hours of sketching, it was clear to me that there was absolutely no solution to put this number of rooms on that land. So the project was cancelled, right? So I think developers should really be aware of the need for preparation before running into a design process, just to have some kind of site study coupled with a financial study.
Thank you. Andrew, please, you have the chance to really bring in all out there. What are the mistakes that you see?
Okay, so in Vietnam, there are many first-timers in the development sector. There are many people coming into the market, and they do not do their research. They do not deeply think about what they're doing beyond an investment vehicle. They don't see that they're creating an experience for a guest. They don't try and understand what they are going to offer. So I would really encourage all developers to think very seriously about how they understand what hospitality is about. It's not just a residential property product. It's actually much more complex. And I would encourage them to actually have a meaningful debate with an operator. It's all very well and good to start a master plan, to then start to try and get the land and all those sorts of things, but you need to have a vision. And that vision has to last the duration. So it's very good to engage with an operator who's going to bring you a lot into that ongoing relationship. Then I would ask you, have a thorough process. Don't run a process where you segregate the designers into a phase-by-phase environment. Many times I've annoyed Carl immensely because I've come in late as an interior designer, and he's so angry that I'm going to change his MEP. Because the developer only wants to pay small amounts of money phase by phase. They do not see the value in having designers in the room talking about ideas and concepts about an ultimate ambience and experience which is going to be delivered down the track. And I'm happy to have the argument with Carl when I've been separated from him. I would sooner have it all at one time together in the room. So that's about being thorough. Finally, be prepared for the long haul. I don't see developers doing their feasibilities. I'm sure the number of projects that I've looked at in the first 9 months of this year where they're all scratching their heads saying, oops, we now need to think about phasing. We now need to think about how much we're going to do because they never had a feasibility, they never had a proper QS doing their process. So it's about having a complete holistic approach to hospitality, which is where you're offering a guest environment, guest experience, which is hopefully memorable, distinctive, and has a longevity into the future.
Thank you. This was just getting you started, yeah? Luigi, please, you guys have something to add on what it could be done, what could developer do better?
Oh, well, I totally subscribe, Andrew. It's a problem of vision. From the technical point of view, depends, you know, sometimes they have good big project managers, so actually it's not a big problem. What is really, let's say, difficult is to get the vision. And the vision, because hospitality is not only a building, is not only a room, and the investors often, they only concern about building something rather than build a destination. And that's actually, for me, the worst part, in my opinion.
Carl, please, do you want to add anything on our complaining session?
I want to be contrarian. Okay, you know, 10 years ago, our client base was made 80% foreign, and today it's probably more than 80% Vietnamese. So rather than underscore mistakes, I'd like to actually suggest that we've seen people learn a lot of lessons, sometimes obliquely. For example, whilst I would encourage early operator involvement and good process, you know, I agree with all of that. We have some clients, some big clients, people in the room, who have learnt a lot over time and who are better at engaging operators later and branding after they've actually delivered the hotel, or bringing in the operator early at concept, letting them go and bringing them back when they're a tender. So we're, you know, I've got two very good examples in my mind where we've had very successful Vietnamese development projects that have done both of those. So whilst I'm still going to encourage early operator involvement, good process, architects and engineers working together, hey, there's a lot of good clients in Vietnam who do things differently, and we have to adjust to that.
Thank you, Carl. Han, for you, I have a special add-on for this question, because you guys are all about trying to improve process, design and operation. We know we have a few slides for you, 3, to really explain us what BIM is about and how does it help.
Yeah, I mean, to answer, to follow up with your question is that, you know, I hate to tell the developers, which are our clients, what they're doing wrong. But, you know, for the most part, I think underestimating the process is something that most developers, not just Vietnamese developers, but developers in general, that do wrong. They underestimate the timeline, they underestimate the budget, understanding the standard, and knowing what a hotel is supposed to do, or supposed to, the experience of a hotel in general. So I think that's something that's quite critical for developers in general. But in terms of process, I want to really quickly, I have 3 slides that I wanted to explain about this process, and a lot of it, for those who don't know, and I was talking outside, and there were there were a few people that asked me, you know, what is BIM? What is BIM? So I want to take this opportunity to quickly explain. BIM stands for Building Information Modeling, and not mistaken for the BIM group, which is a big time developer. BIM is a process that will help to save time and cost during the design, construction, and operation of any project. That's what BIM does. It's a process that helps to save time and cost. Okay? And in terms of BIM has many phases. There are many stages of BIM. You can see behind me here. You know, you have the design. First, you have the bid and award, which is the planning phase, and then you have the design and engineering, and then you have the development and so forth. And throughout the life cycle of the building involves BIM, and BIM can affect in each of those phases. And during this time, during this COVID time, we know that one of the things that's going to be really critical is that we understand that design in general is going to change the way we look at hotels. I think we talk about the recovery period in 2024 and so forth, but from now until 2024, what are we going to do? How are we going to change our design? How are we going to change the way that we operate the hotel right now until that time. And frankly speaking, from my perspective, once we get to 2024, it's actually going to still be the same. We're going to have to change the way that we take vacations, change the way that we experience leisure moving forward. And then one of the other things that I want to quickly talk about is the idea of how it affects through a certain phase of the project, building information modeling. One of the things that it does is that during the design phase is front-loaded, which is something that is, for those who don't understand, is that you're going to spend a lot of time at the beginning of the project doing concept. You're going to spend a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of resources at the beginning of the project, where it's going to save you money towards the end of the project. You can see this diagram right here. In the gray area, that's a typical traditional process. If you do how everything works now, where you start really small, really low, where you don't invest in a lot of money per se, and then it gets higher and higher as you go throughout the projects when you find out things that are so many, the problematic things that are happening during your project. So that's where the total time frame, it drags towards the end. Where BIM comes in is that it drags towards the front, where you solve and you worked out all your issues and problem in the beginning, and then when you get towards the end of the project, when you get through the construction part of the project, where it gets really costly, that's when everything reduces. And that's what BIM does. It's a front-loaded process. And then obviously, during the construction process, that's when it costs the most money. When you're building a project or you're developing a project, BIM has known to save roughly 20 to 40% of total construction costs. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to cut off your budget. It's actually going to mitigate the overspending. So anybody who does a project, who does development, understands that, you know, you have a budget, you have a schedule, you have a timeline, right? What BIM does is that it meets the timeline and it meets the budget. It doesn't save you from the budget, it meets the budget. 99% of the time, traditionally, when you build a project, it's going to overrun your budget. That's a given. You know that's going to happen. So that's what BIM does. It eliminates that overrun and keep your project on budget. And lastly, the biggest part of, as you know, during the construction, if you're building your project, it takes about 4 to 5 years. But the operation and the maintenance and facility maintenance of it, it's going to last you about 20, 25 years. So that's where your cost is going to be the largest. Not during the construction, not during the initial investment, but during the operation and facility management of your facility. So that's where BIM comes in. It saves roughly about 20, 25%, which is a large amount of money if you look at it over a 25-year span. And lastly, in terms of hospitality, that's so far, I can't see that. But in terms of hospitality, you know, these are the kind of things that we have to kind of consider when you look in terms of utilizing BIM for your development. First is what Andrew spoke about briefly was about the standards and how we look at the different standardization of your facility, whether we're looking at, you know, different activities or we're looking at 5-star, 4-star, et cetera. So that's something that BIM can help to sort of to plan ahead, to sort out your standardization within your project. So if you switch from a 5-star to a 4-star, you don't have to redesign the whole thing. The standards are already there, and you can switch immediately, right? And then during the design options, right? So as you design the process, as you go through the design phases, you're going to go through a lot of options and a lot of planning. And what BIM does is that it allows you to change through these options immediately and quickly, because you're going to plan it out differently. And then it coordinates and make everybody relevant. The entire team is involved during the entire process. And then last but not least, obviously, the facility management, what I mentioned before. It simplified that entire process. Everything within a BIM process is digitized, meaning from beginning to end. So you have everything, all the data, all the information is within your model throughout the life cycle of your entire project, right? So.
Thank you very much. We have a bit of echo coming back. I don't know if it's because Carl's microphone is on, but Carl, if your microphone is on, maybe when you don't speak, I suggest you to take it down. Just on a follow-up question, you guys are working a lot with BIM system overseas. You're based in Vietnam, working overseas. What's the future for Vietnam on the BIM? Do you see people improving and start to using it?
Yes, definitely. BIM, you know, as I've been working with the Ministry of Construction, and I sit on the BIM steering committee since 2014, and we've been writing the BIM roadmap for Vietnam since 2014, and we have a roadmap that is that we are planning to launch, and that within the next few years, BIM will be required within a specific sector. For specific projects. It's going to start with government projects, infrastructure projects that will be required to use BIM during that process. Projects that are exclusive to FDI. Those are the projects that are going to have to be required to use BIM. And then eventually in 2022 and 2023 is when the private sector, certain projects of certain size and certain costs will be required to use BIM. Here in Vietnam.
Thank you very much. We'll move to one more section, go further into maybe rediscussing about the mega trends and all the change and some of the topics discussed today. And I'd like to move in one of the topics that's been hot in Vietnam in the last few years, which is condotel. Actually, I'd like to talk about branded residence. And maybe Andrew, you are one of the designer of branded residence here. How complex those products are for Vietnamese to put them together and what they should look at into doing it right?
Okay, so for branded residence, I'll speak to what I think the developers need to think about. You're adopting and going to develop a brand. You're looking for a premium because your product has a brand. You're looking for a premium price and a saleability of it. So you've really got to commit to working with that brand that you've adopted from somewhere, not necessarily created yourself unless you've got an extremely good in-house operational team, and you're going to be creating something which is an attractive. There is many different models of branded residence. Residence within hotels, within resorts, adjacencies, or a residential development that has an overlay of management and operation where it adopts the standard coming from a hotelier and the like. Huge challenges about quality, service standards, consistency of service standards, and most importantly, trust that you're going to have that as an ongoing relationship, ambience and experience. So for developers, it's a lot to learn about those brand values, those brand standards and maintaining them. For a designer, very exciting type of environment. It's got everything in it. It's got many aspects of design where you're testing yourself about the residential accommodation component, the facilities and the environments and the ambience that you're created. It's a very exciting type of project. It's only slightly less complex than doing somebody's bespoke house because you're creating many people's homes and environments and you're making it very broadly attractive. So as a project type, it's fantastic, very enjoyable. You've seen many iterations of it hit the market here. We've been involved in many. We are seeing quality come, but there's still a lot of branded product which still falls short. And in the longer term, one of the biggest issues is maintaining that standard so that the market value remains into the future. So it's a great opportunity to be involved in a very unique and interesting environment. And of course, it's about hospitality and about that guest experience as well.
You work with some operators, international operators, some of your projects they are.
Yes, we have. We've been working with some in-house operators as well as with some internationals. And one of the biggest issues that we spend time on for Vietnamese developers, they often look at a piece of land and they look at the site cover and the development. They don't actually try and translate that backwards into an environment and an amenity which remains attractive. Unfortunately, in Vietnam and most Vietnamese planning controls, very high density. So you end up with very high density residential environments in a resort context. Doesn't translate always very well, leads to a lot of fairly banal outcomes. And so that's one of the biggest challenges, what the planning allows you to do relative to what you should be doing to create that brand ambience.
Thank you. Jeff, just to pass this same question to you. You guys are doing in Bangkok, one of the most exclusive branded residence, probably your project management there or doing some help. Can you just share with you your experience in that project? If you see that everything is going smoothly, or just share the experience.
So
Is the Amman correct? Amman Bangkok.
That's a fantastic project. It's the Amman Residences. For those who know Bangkok, it's located right behind Central Embassy in Nailet Park. It's a 36-story building with about 52 hotel suites and 50 apartments for sale. It's the first time, from what I know, that Amman is involved in a residence. They have never done that before, and so the process for designing this building is not very different from my previous experience with Amman, from what we have done Amanoi and Amansara in Cambodia. This is their first residence project, so they are not very different from their process has not changed. What we can compare them with is they are very secretive. Probably the most secretive brand as far as design is concerned. It's almost impossible to see a mock-up room if you are not from a man group. But no, they have apartments for sales, so they will have to be behind in a different way. That's the only difference.
Thank you. Still on the megatrends. Now I'll move away from branded residence unless you guys want to add something. Okay, I'd like maybe to pass it to you, Luigi, because last year we've been discussing about guest experience a lot today. Last year you were promoting a lot of heritage, kind of use of heritage building into real estate, and hotel could be a perfect match for an heritage building. What do you think is the future of heritage building in Vietnam and in Vietnam hospitality especially?
Okay, well, let's say that for hospitality, there is a lot of opportunity theoretically. In practice, especially the private sector don't invest in this type of project yet. They all waiting for government's initiative, and this type of projects require significant investment. And therefore it's still struggling. There are few illuminated investors that started already here in Saigon. I don't want to mention, but there is someone in the room. But the good things, the good result of our conference was to raise the awareness, especially among the Vietnamese. So, for example, a few weeks ago, there been another petition of the Architect Association against a horrendous project in Dalat that they wanted to rape a mountain and in the same time destroy villas that have significant values. And you see that the people start to raise the voice. And that's actually great. I'm very happy about that. The future, it's up to the people also in this room that they probably should try to think about their portfolio and not only build a glass building, but start to also looking at their own treasure that will help to create the destination, because that's actually Vietnam, with all due respect, is not a destination yet like France, like Italy, like England, but there is materials to work on. There is a lot of things. The problem is that nobody is looking at yet. So potential, yes. Actual projects, very little. Very little. So but I'm very optimistic and positive because Vietnam is a young country, and I think it just need more push from some good investor that they start to do, and I feel many people will follow.
And from a guest point of view, would be great. I mean, all the using any history into a building, you have a story to tell, and therefore the guests will pay much more money for it. Thank you. I think we only have 5 minutes left, so I'll try to speed it up a bit. I still have a couple of questions left. Maybe I'll connect with Carl. Still on the mega trends, one of the biggest mega trends is, of course, going green. and you guys have this kind of support and you help a lot of people to actually get into green building. What's the future of green building in Vietnam, Carl?
Well, I'll focus on hospitality, I think. Wasn't the Geneva video wonderful and the discussion inspiring a healthier life? We kind of see green buildings as sustainable buildings, ones that balance life cycle costs and offer their experiences for a long time. You know, I really are architects who design things that last a long time. And from that perspective, we see hotel positioning and the associated guidelines for energy, water, etc., picking up on the green perspective. So if we have an office building, I can put a good case forward that you get a green certification that's going to improve your yield. But with a hotel, it's a little bit different. And I think that the operator is in a far better position to lead and provide the specifications to pick up the green side of the building. For example, I'll share a secret. The guidelines of Intercontinental from IHG incorporate LEED requirements as a base. So that way they can follow green buildings and I guess they're not diluting their brand. So we've been their lifestyle brands today. They seem to continue that. I know they're green under the hood, but that's not on their badge. You know, they're looking at different things, a total experience. And that we learned today, sometimes things are going upside down. So I think green is very important for hospitality. It's been going on a long time. Operators have been keen on energy and water for longer than just about anyone. But maybe in the hospitality experience, we're seeing other things come through at the moment. Thanks, Mauro, back to you.
Thank you, Carl. I think my team want me to close because we are running out of time. I want Han to just add one small thing because we've been talking a lot about design into aesthetic or functionality of hotel. We have a lot of people here that would love to have both. How you guys will help the operation of the hotel later on? Really 30 seconds.
I think at this time, if we're talking about aesthetics or function, I think right now we're looking at function. Functionality is going to be key moving forward as far as design is concerned. Just quickly follow up on Carl's comment. I was reading this article and it says that, you know, within the design industry, green has been a buzzword for quite some time. You know, every time you're developing a building, you want your building to be green, sustainable, and et cetera, et cetera. But right now, where we are at this moment, what we're looking at to replace that word green is actually clean. I don't know that the other panel, we talk about hygiene and so forth, but I believe that clean is going to be the new green, where you're looking and focusing your design around a clean environment. And looking at functionality is more critical because now you're going to look at spaces to be a lot more flexible, adaptable. You know, looking at spaces that have multi-functions and how people interact with one another. You know, I mean, we're very lucky here in Vietnam to be in this environment right now, you know, but we're actually very lucky because we controlled it very well. But once we open the floodgates, once the airport opens, then we're going to have a whole new problem. We're going to have a whole new approach to how we look at the environment that we're in. So that is going to change the design environment forever, in my opinion. So when you look at the design in terms of hospitality, you're going to have to look at how flexible your spaces are going to be. You know, like we heard that maybe there's not going to be any more fitness facilities. The buffet line is out the window. I don't think we're going to be able to serve buffet anymore. Right now we can because we're controlling here in Vietnam. But, you know, what about next year? What about 2 years from now? So these are the kind of things that we have to look at, and these are that kind of things that we have to consider in terms of design, and it's very, very critical that we have to look at the flexibility of how our building operates.
Thank you very much. Andrew, I know you died to add something on that. Just please go eat, and then we all have a drink.
Okay, not to hold up. Hospitality is about hosting a guest and building an experience where there is an ambience and a potential memory that's being built. So if you're going to do that and do it well, aesthetics and functionality are seamless. It's not one over the other. Of course, functionality is important, as is the aesthetic. I can't see how you can have a great guest experience if the functionality is poor. If the building does not have a good green initiative and standards, it will not give you that overall performance and outcome and guest well-being experience. So it is holistic. Designing in a hospitality environment is a holistic relationship between, as a host and a guest, you're building an ambience which is hopefully memorable. We have not seen that at the forefront of most of the projects here in Vietnam. It's a huge opportunity to take the guest experience away from external examples, foreign examples, to create our own experience. It's not white face. It's actually about doing something specific and special here in Vietnam, being holistic and making sure the hospitality of the Vietnamese comes through the culture and that final interface.
Thank you very much. Thank you everybody for joining him in. Thank you everybody for staying until the end. Carl, thanks for your connection. We all envy you. Minh, do you want to close the conference? Everybody, please join us for the last few drinks. And thanks again for coming. And we'll do another one soon in 2021. Hopefully we'll have much better news for everybody. Thank you.